All right, this video is going to start our online learning for Carmel High School for the data lesson number 1. And this is going to be for both my gold and blue classes. And if you're a gold day in Algebra 1, it would be for the March 18th date. And if you're a blue class, it's going to be for the 3/19. So we're kind of switching the order, but I want you to know that it's going to go gold, blue, gold, blue, gold, blue for this unit. And then if you have any questions, please send me an email. I'm happy to help you out. So what I'm going to do is start with our notebook and continue where we would have continued on for chapter 12. And in my notebook, I'm going to start on page 107. I posted on Canvas blank pages if you want to print them off and follow along, or just watch the video. The choice is yours. But the first lesson, what I'm going to do here is talk about just kind of review of writing the equation of a line, because we're going to use that in the data unit. And then I'm going to talk about just new vocab for data. So the very first thing that I'm going to start with you guys is just reviewing the writing of an equation of a line. And you're going to need a couple formulas. So I'm going to write those down on your paper just so that you have them. These are the formulas that you need to know. So here's the first one. The first equation is for slope. The slope equation is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then the equation for getting a line, we're going to start with point slope form. That's y minus y1 equals m, your slope, and then in parentheses x minus x1. And for this one, you need a point. The point is going to be x1 comma y1, and then your slope is m. And then what you'll do is transform that line into slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And I'll show you how to do that. So just kind of a review, what I'm going to start with is finding the slope of a line. So the 2 points that you're given here, if I use my slope formula, I'm going to have my second y of 4 minus my first y of 1 divided by my second x3 minus my first x2. And if we subtract for the top, we're going to get 3, on the bottom 1, and if you divide, your slope is 3. Then it says write the equation of the line that passes through those points. And what we need to do is pick one of the points. So I'm just going to circle 1. This will be the point that I'll use. So now in my equation, my y minus y1 equals m, and then in parentheses x minus x1, I'm going to use the point 2, 1 and the slope that I just found. Y minus the y value of my point is 1. Set that equal to your slope. And then in parentheses x minus the x value of your point. Now, if the question asked for you to leave the equation in point slope form, you would be done. That's pretty easy. But in case your directions were to get it in slope-intercept form, you have to do 2 things. You need to distribute your slope. In this case, you'd have y minus 1 equals 3x minus 6. And then the second thing I need to do is solve for y by adding 1 to both sides. So if you were asked for slope-intercept form, this is the equation you would have. Y equals 3x minus 5. It's probably the most basic form that we know, slope-intercept form. So you start on the y-axis at -5, then you follow your slope 3, up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. Here's the second one. I'll follow the same process here. For this question, we're given 2 new points. So my slope is going to be 2 minus 2 over -3 minus 0. When I subtract, I'm going to get 0 divided by -3, which is a slope of 0. Now we learned a phrase for slope of 0, and the phrase comes from one of these, hoi or vux. Horizontal lines have 0 slope, and the equation is y equal to a number. Vertical lines have undefined slope, and their equations are x equal to a number. Our slope of 0 means my equation is going to be y equal to a number. Now look at the y value in your points. They're the same. Y is equal to that number too. For my last one over here, if I find the slope, I'm going to have 5 minus 1 over -2 minus 2. When I subtract on the top, I get 4, and this is minus negative, so that's actually going to change that to be a positive. It would have been minus -2. And when I subtract a negative, that means you're going to be adding, so 0 ends up going on the bottom. And you can't divide by 0, that's undefined. Now again with that phrase hoi or vux, when we have undefined, when 0 is underneath, that's undefined, this would be a vertical line. And a vertical line is x equal to a number type of equation. Look at the x values and your points. They're both the same, -2. Now the next 3 questions talk about writing the equation given the slope and the point on the line. So now I'm just going to start with the formula that we wrote at the top. Y minus y1 equals m, and then x minus x1. So if I plug in my slope of -2, if I plug in my x value of -3, if I plug in a y value of 5, this is the equation you would get. The first thing I'm going to do is simplify minus a negative. That's going to make this a plus sign. Now I'm going to do 2 steps. I'm going to distribute my slope and then solve for y. If I distribute my slope, I'm going to have -2x minus 6. And if I solve for y, all I need to do is add 5 over. So the equation of my line is going to be -2x minus 1. For the next one, again, plug in the information into your formula. Y minus a y value of 2 is equal to my slope of -4, and then in parentheses, x minus my x value minus -1. Again, similar to what we had here, if you subtract a negative, that's going to change this to a plus. And now 2 steps are distribute your slope and then solve for y, so it looks like this. If I distribute my slope, I'll have y minus 2 is equal to -4x. -4 times +1 now would mean that's -4. And if I solve for y, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. My equation is going to be -4x minus 2. Now the last one might seem a little bit trickier because they say slope is undefined. And if we review what we did up here, we reviewed this phrase, hoi vux. Horizontal lines have 0 slope, vertical lines have undefined slope. So if I'm looking at undefined, VUX, bucks, my x of my point is 3. So it's going to be 3. That's it for our warm-up. Check out the next video for our Chapter 12 lesson on data.